What's up, guys and gals? This is Christopher Sheffield from Chef Shoots Indie and Persephone Productions, and in this video we're breaking down a comprehensive guide for how to direct actors. Directing is one of my favorite jobs on the planet. Some of the most fun weeks of my life have been spent directing my films. If you work in any other position on set, I highly recommend giving directing a shot. It's very stressful, but honestly it's just so much damn fun to see your ideas come to fruition and come to life on the screen. Any successful director will tell you that casting for your projects is huge. It doesn't matter how good at your job you are, your film will always rest on the backs of the actors you choose to carry that story. So that being said, learning how to direct actors is extremely important. So what I'm gonna do is break directing actors down into 3 major stages of communication: rehearsal, blocking, and giving notes. Alright, let's get started. Rehearsal is a gift, and if you're ever given the opportunity to have a table read or an all-out rehearsal, it's imperative that you take it. Let's face it, working on set can be chaotic at times. You don't want your first time interacting with your actors and the material to be when hundreds, if not thousands, and on the grander scale, millions of dollars are ticking away every minute. You want time to rehearse, discuss, and answer questions well before the cameras are rolling. Everyone starts with the same material, which is the script, but as you'll learn, it's very easy for you and the actors to have a very different interpretation of the words, characters, and even the intent of scenes within the story. The purpose of rehearsal is not typically to find the scene or the perfect line delivery. The purpose of rehearsal is to set everyone's compass pointed in the same direction. In this stage of communication with your actors, the most important element to get across is the who, what, and why of their characters, as well as the who, what, and why of the entire film. They're going to bring great ideas, and it's your job to help them decide which of those great ideas they can use as a framework for their characters' who, what, and why. You all need to start your journey on that same page. If all the performance decisions your actors make on set are grounded in a firm understanding of their character, you'll develop a very strong arc for your audience to follow. If their and your decisions are not grounded in that same understanding, your movie is in danger of losing the fluidity of the story because you'll be making counterintuitive decisions to each other. Rehearsal is the absolute perfect time to get everyone on the same page. Okay, so you're rehearsed. The film is well underway, the pressure is on, and you walk onto your set to shoot. The first step you want to take with any scene is to block it out with your actors. Blocking is when you physically walk through the scene with your actors and actually interact with the set. This is a full-scale rehearsal with line delivery, and it's where you begin to make some of the most specific and important decisions about the characters and the scene. Blocking will dictate every other decision in the lighting and framing of that scene. This stage of communication with the actors is the stage where you, as a director, need to have the most open mind. Actors are artists, and their art is all about creating a believable reality in your scene. So what you need to do as a director in the blocking process is listen to and guide your actors to find that reality. That means that sometimes lines will be read very differently than they were written. Sometimes actors feel very strongly about specific actions like standing versus sitting, or moving on entirely different lines than you or the script had imagined. Having an open mind doesn't mean agreeing to every change, but it means allowing there to be discussion about changes and why an actor feels they should happen. The most important thing here is to rely on the material to be your North Star. That's the script. This scene exists in the film for a reason, so you and your actors' decisions need to serve that reason. That being said, this is not the time to be vague. If there's an intention in the scene and a purpose in the blocking, you need to be very clear and understandable with your direction. You do not want to start shooting if the actors have question marks in their minds, and this is your last opportunity to cover those questions before you start rolling. Okay, so now the question about what happens if this goes wrong. Let's say you're very clear about your intentions, but one or more of your actors disagree, and they disagree strongly. This is a pitfall for some directors. The wrong choices would be either to 1. Argue with them and hold up the entire production, or 2. Immediately agree to their choice even if it doesn't feel right, because that change can ruin your confidence in the scene and you may end up kicking yourself in post-production later on. So what do? First off, you have to entertain the possibility that they're right and their choice might be stronger than yours. Something I often like to do in this situation is ask to hear the line read or see the blocking they prefer. Once they've performed it, I'm able to give them an absolutely honest interpretation of it. Sometimes that interpretation is that it just doesn't work for me, but I'm willing to shoot one take with that decision and we'll be able to see it with a clear mind in post-production. The most important thing to remember here is that your decisions in these scenes are not meant to serve yourselves as individual artists. They're meant to serve the story as a greater whole. So you, as a director, need to communicate to your actors the importance of decisions as they relate to the story. Once you've blocked and discussed the scene, it's time to shoot it. Cameras are rolling, and now you've entered the final and most important phase in directing actors, and that is giving notes. Notes are when you communicate your thoughts about an actor's performance in the previous take, so they can apply it to the next take. Notes can range from the very specific and technical, such as where you feel an extra emphasis or a pause could be used, or if you want the actors to speed up or slow the pacing down to serve the scene. They can also be very broad, such as saying, I want to feel more intimidated by your character here, or let's try to soften the delivery. What notes should not be is nonsensical statements such as asking actors to play their performance a certain color, or contradictions like, you should be strong but vulnerable. These are generally used by less experienced directors that don't know what they want and are afraid to admit it. The way you give notes, in my opinion, is usually defined by your style as a director. For me personally, when I'm directing, I tend to relate most of my notes back to the audience. For instance, I would say something like, I love the way you reacted here. I think we can show the audience a little strength by the way you bounce back from that in the next line. Or, let's add a couple beats before you answer. Let's make the audience wonder what you're gonna say. Notice the way I phrase my ideas. I'm not dictating absolute terms. I'm telling them how I think and feel, because what we're doing is technical, but it's also art. And the way something feels is very important. Phrasing my ideas like that also allows the actor to take ownership of the notes. In a way, it allows them to come up with a solution to what I'm asking for in the most organic way to them, which will help it be more consistent with their natural sense of the performance. You'll start to find on larger projects that you tend to develop a shorthand with actors you work consistently with. And sometimes notes can be communicated very easily because you've reached that base level of understanding for what the scenes require. The most important thing to keep in mind is that actors are in a very vulnerable place when they perform, especially emotionally driven scenes. And the rhetoric of your notes needs to be communicative, friendly, and enforce the idea that you are crafting something together, because you are. As a director, you should not be commanding or demanding anything from the actors you work with. You should be mixing the best ideas, both theirs and yours, to create the most powerful cinematic experience. But hey, why just take my word for it? Let's go ahead and hear from a few actors about some of the most helpful and some of the worst direction they've received while on set.
Hi, my name is Zoe Yale, and the worst bit of direction I ever got was actually a lack of direction. I was in this horror film and I was playing the character with Stockholm Syndrome, and it was our first take, and rather than my director saying to me, shiver at your captor's touch, she actually handed my captor an ice cube and without talking to me had him run it down my back. And I just gotta say, if you wanna direct, please trust your actors to act. That was a conversation she could have had with me, and I probably could have done something much more creative and also comfortable for me, rather than literally being pushed into method acting, which didn't end up getting the result she wanted anyway, because I was just so shocked that there was something cold on my back that I just looked confused. So, talk to your actors. Don't do things to your actors without consent. That's my advice.
Okay, this is William Christopher Ford. I was working on a film once and I was playing the heavy, and I had a couple of guys who were playing my henchmen. And in the scene, what was supposed to happen was this girl was, we were holding her hostage, and she fights her way out and she starts to run away. And one of the henchmen turns to me and says, "Bah, she got away." I say to him very coolly, "Well, go and get her." The director jumped in and said, No, you're a bad guy. Talk like a bad guy." And I wasn't quite sure what he meant. He demonstrated for me, and he said, "Well, go and get her." Ha ha ha! I kid you not. That's how he wanted me to deliver it, and since he was paying me, that's exactly how I did it.
Hey Christopher, this is Kevin Mulhare. One of the best directions that I ever received mid-scene was from a director who advised me to make my character more sympathetic and with greater empathy. We were doing a body comedy scene. All the actors were playing into it. I played into it initially. So he advised me to change my character. It turned out very nicely, and in fact, it's one of the scenes on my reel.
Some of my favorite direction has come after doing a scene, and a director pulling you aside, not in a public way, just in a very private way, and saying, "Hey, I really felt that. That felt very honest." And something about that, it just kind of tattoos into your brain, like you just know that that's where the scene needs to live, that it's okay to pull an actor aside and give them constructive praise, to let them know that you're running on the same track.
Hi, my name is Katrina Alicia, and one of the worst directions I have received on set is a word-for-word, line-by-line, step-by-step breakdown of how I should basically act. And the lack of trust in me as their actor is really frustrating and makes it really difficult for me to bring what I have to the table. And on the complete opposite end of that, some of my most favorite sets and memorable directors I've worked with are the ones who have provided a space for myself and other actors on set to play and have fun.
So we ran the scene and the director loved the take. He said, "We got it, circle that." But then he asked for me to go again, and he says, "We're gonna continue to roll, and I just want you to do a series. Now do it differently." You know, this was comedic at first, and now it's like, do a range, just keep on going through the scene. So I went through the scene 4 or 5 different ways, and in the final edit, he was able to fragment together parts of different takes that actually added a different level of intensity to the character than we had originally put together. But that came with preparation and literally working with this director for months to rehearse together, to really flesh out that character to where we can just get on set and play. Yeah, one of the best experiences.
Hi, I'm Bryce Townsend. The best piece of directing I've ever gotten was in an audition. It was the role of a high school student giving a class presentation about his dreams and being bullied and heckled by his classmates. I did it once above the camera to the wall, and then the director came and just stood in my line of vision and said, "That was great, now just speak it to me," and it made all the difference.
Hi, my name is Heather Wake, and the worst bit of direction I've ever received is no direction at all, due to this preconceived notion that I, the fragile actor, need to only think about my character's thoughts and emotions. But trust me, I also want to talk about the framing, the lighting, the thought of pace. These are all storytelling elements that I also use and need to know to execute our collaborative vision. You, me, the writer, everyone. Let's all get our hands dirty.
All right, I hope you guys and gals picked up a ton of useful information. I know I threw a lot of it at you, and I threw it at you fast, so feel free to watch the video again, pause it, take down some notes, make sure you pay attention to the little indie tips that I threw in the corner. All of that is good stuff. Honestly, I'm really excited to see how you guys and gals apply this in your productions, see if it helps you communicate better and collaborate better with your fellow artists on set. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments. I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about it all day, and I love talking to you guys specifically about it. All right, I'll see you on the next one.